Actually, do you know what? I'm not Johnny Smith. Today I'm going to be Thomas Shelby. I'm going to be Thomas Shelby in Birmingham, the home of Peaky Blinders, with the cheeky Cento blinder. I did say that. And that's the reason why I'm dressed as such a turn of the century fashionista. But the thing is I couldn't drive this in Italy, so I brought it to Birmingham because this particular part of Birmingham back in the 1800s was known as the Italian Quarter, Little Italy, where a lot of Italian immigrants came. And of course, Peaky Blinders is filmed and set here. And the Shelby family, the Peaky Blinders, were a real gangster family. But before I go into all that, this is the bit that we need to talk about. This is a ground up new car, and it's ever so slightly bigger in all respects than the old Fiat 500, and it's going to be made in Turin in Italy, whereas before it was made in Poland. But is it any good? I'm Johnny Smith. Welcome to the Late Brake Show. Now I'm going to a couple of areas around the Digbeth region of Birmingham, and that is because that's where the Italian Quarter came to be. Around the early part of the 1800s, people came across from northern Italy, mostly because of Napoleonic occupation and famine, and they brought with them skills of being entertainers and precision workers, engineers. In the late part of the 1800s, a lot of southern Italians came and congregated here, and they brought with them things like organ grinding skills and ice cream. I love the fact that Fiat has finally made a 500 electric for a global audience, because the original one that most people have never driven came out in 2013, was only available weirdly in California and Oregon in the States. It was made in Mexico and sold in those parts of the States. Strange, very strange. But it had about 84 to 87 miles of range, Type 1 connector, so quite old school. So it's 61 millimeters longer, 56 millimeters wider and 22 millimeters longer in the wheelbase. In other words, there's a chance it might have a bit more room inside than the previous 500, which is no bad thing. The design is unmistakably 500, but they've made it a bit more, I was going to say brutish. Let's just call it less cutesy, because it's not exactly a brute, the 500. But it's got these kind of little overlapping eyebrows with a kind of a bad boy bonnet. If you remember 90s modified cars, we used to do this, the bad boy bonnet. Front wheel drive, of course. This is the first Fiat 500 to be available with 17-inch wheels. 17s. They look massive on this. I've got the convertible version, and it will be available just like the existing 500 as a hardtop or a convertible, but 3-door only, or 2-door, because it's the convertible. This particular shape is only going to be available as electric, so this is going on sale alongside the existing Shape 500 that's been facelifted an awful lot in its piston form. But when that gets phased out, you'll only be able to buy a 500 as an electric car. Right, let's have a look under here, because the Fiat 500e is available in two flavours of tune, the city range and the long range. And the difference really is motor and battery size. The city range is 70 kilowatt motor and the long range is 87 kilowatt motor, okay? Which means 0 to 62 is a bit slower for the city car, 9.5 seconds to 62, versus 9 seconds to 62 with the long range. Top speed is lower with the city, 84 miles an hour, long range, 93 miles an hour. The battery partner for this car is Samsung, and apparently they've got these interesting modules, a first application integrating cooling and additional functions directly into the modules, which allows battery packs to increase in energy density. Now, what that really means is the fact that they've managed to get a nice liquid cooled battery pack into quite a small place. It's 42 kilowatt hours if you've bought the long range version, and it's 23.7 kilowatt hours if you buy the city version. What does that mean range wise? 199 mile range WLTP for the long range and 115 miles range for the city car. This car, the car I'm testing today, is the top range car, which is La Prima. There are 4 spec levels, and we'll talk about the spec levels in a sec. But basically that means this is the long range car with a 42 kilowatt hour battery pack with 199 mile range capability. So when you set the sat nav on the electric 500, it gives you all the charging points. It's actually quite a high resolution. Bigger screen for the top ranking models, like this 10.25 inch rather than 7 inch. Steering on 500s is always light. It's a car geared around city life, which is why EV makes a lot of sense. And although you might discount the 23.7 kilowatt hour city range version that does 115 miles, actually when you think about it, there's so many of these cars that just live in cities and don't go out beyond the city limits, which makes sense. And in city use, you can probably get more than 115 miles. Okay, this I think is Faisley Street. Now, back in the days of the Italian Quarter, I'm pretty sure there was no Laser Quest. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So just like the previous version of the 500, the convertible isn't a true convertible in the traditional sense. It still has a metal structure on the roof. It just peels back the middle section. So it'll either go back to there on one push, or it'll go down to there on two pushes. What it means is the roof stays bunched up here. Your rear visibility is quite bad, but it's very stylish. So I'd say it's more of a sort of full-length mad sunroof than it is a cabrio. Come and have a look inside, you cheeky Cento blinder. I'm going to keep saying that. So you've got a two-spoke steering wheel, which is really similar to the Honda E. The 500 badge. This can be ordered as a two-tone. So of course you've got no gear shifter because it's single speed electric. So it just does PRND for the transmission just along the top here. This particular car, being the high spec, has the pad for wireless phone charging just inside this cubby here, and it has an embossed outline of the Turin skyline to remind you that this is made in Turin. And down here in the door handle grab, there's an embossed picture of a classic Fiat 500. I used to have one of those. And it says made in Torino. And actually quite similar to the Honda E, come to think of it, is this little plinth here between the seats. You've got an armrest here. But the plinth has your E modes. What your E modes are is your driving modes, and there's 3 of them. I'm in normal, which is what it defaults to. If I go to range mode, it kind of backs off the top speed a little bit, and it might back off the air conditioning and stuff. But then you've got a third mode called Sherpa, which is like the get me home mode. It backs off the top speed completely. It won't let you use the heating or the aircon, I don't think. And it really dumbs down the throttle. So that is like, I just want to get home, I'm running low on power. I love the fact it's called Sherpa. It'll guide you home. But the problem is I think of Sherpa as a 1970s builder's van, the sort of thing you'd see around here in the olden days. Not as old as Peaky Blinders, but you know, I don't think they had cars in Peaky Blinders. I know they did. So I've got it in normal mode. If I stick it in range mode, what I didn't mention before, the main difference between range mode and normal mode is you have the same amount of power, but it's one pedal driving. So it'll hold it now, and it'll bring it to a complete standstill by just coming off the throttle. There is no regen that you can dial in and dial out. It's either range mode or normal mode, where it has very, very minor regen braking. So I come off the brake now and it's actually really aggressive. Sort of like level 3 on my Kia Soul, or maximum B on an e-Golf, for example. I think they've done a good job with this, you know. It's just good to have a bigger, I hate the term, portfolio of city car size, you know, this kind of size car that's available as an electric vehicle, and it's interesting, it's charismatic, it's got a great selection of textures and tech. This particular one that I'm testing today is La Prima trim level. There's 4 trim levels of the 500e. Action, Passion, Icon and La Prima. I'll put some details on screen of what that means, but basically this is the top one with the convertible option. Then on the right hand side of the steering wheel, these buttons here for your level 2 autonomy, which is a first in this car segment, and that is lane keep assist or adaptive cruise control and speed limiter. There are also volume controls on the back of the wheel here, and you can change your station. So there's buttons on the front and on the back of the wheel. So if I was going to buy the longer range battery pack, which this has, it's higher in range capability than the Honda E, than the Mini and the E-Up. But I would also urge you to consider the entry-level Renault Zoe. The Zoe gets overlooked. The Zoe's a really good car, and with its revised interior and its tech lift, I think it's a very cool thing. It's also exceptionally good value. If you're looking to buy one of these, what rivals are there? Honda E is probably at the top of the list, and the Mini E, the Mini Electric. And there's a couple of other little ones to consider as well. Now, one of the rivals I would pit this against would be the E-Up, the VW E-Up, or the Skoda Citigo IV, or the Seat Mii. But you know what? I can't really pit them against that, because it seems that you can't really buy it anymore. VW don't necessarily want to sell it to you anymore. They've sort of said they've run out of stock, or they're not replenishing stock, because I think they're bringing in the VW ID3 and stuff like that. It's a bit of a shame. I might be wrong there, but I would definitely consider an E-Up or a Seat Mii instead of this. It's got better legroom as back passengers, if that's a thing. Oh, look at that, it's a Honda CRZ hybrid. I like them. Dude driving it's got a proper dodgy roll up on the go. Windows up smoking too. That's full commitment to the cause. If you're watching this review and you're wondering, would I prefer a Mini Electric or would I prefer a Honda E? Well, I've reviewed both those cars in quite a lot of detail, and I'll put the links to them up here. Here's the Mini one. I have to say I really like this. And then here's the Honda E one. If you just take it from a style perspective, this is the charge port on the Fiat 500e on this side. It has these rubber bungs which are a bit fiddly because they're on long stalks, but it does have a bit of illumination in there, and it has CCS, which is your DC rapid charge. On the long range, it'll charge up to 85 kilowatts, which is about 35 minutes, 0 to 80%. And on the city range, it'll do up to 50 kilowatts, which is about 30 minutes, 0 to 80%. But if you want to do it on like an 11 kilowatt wall box, 2.5 hours for the city and 4 hours 15 for the long range. Even the Convertible has a bigger boot than the Honda E. This is 185 litres. The Honda E's 171 litre boot, Tinsy. Mini E, 211 litres. And the E-Up, 250 litres. And the Renault Zoe's massive. Don't worry about the noise. Got some boys doing some digging to bury a few things. You ain't seen me. This is interesting. These are automatic door handles where you just put your hand into this aperture and there's just like a touch sensitive pad. You can, yeah. And then there's a button on the inside here to just press to leave rather than a physical handle. It's neat. This is an early car because it's left-hand drive, straight, fresh from Italy. Consignment that I got from Italy, all right? But watch out for the rival gangs. So you've got your schedules, you can schedule your charging when you want it to be. And you can set your charging, look, like that. Or you can set your charge, you've got 5 stages of charging here, so you don't have to charge it to maximum. These seats on the higher ranking cars are really nice. There's a couple of different fabrics to choose from. This stuff is called Sequel, S-E-A-Quil, and it uses 20% polyester and plastic fibres that have been pulled from and recycled from the sea, I believe. They look great. I'm a big fan of cloth, just like the Honda E has a really interesting kind of tweed in it. The 500 looks good with a bit of imaginative tweed. Isofix is quite prominent actually, really obvious. It's not covered up by anything. And there's 2 Isofixes in the back. It is a 4-seat, not a 5. I'm not going to sit back there. Last time I sat in the back of a 500, they had to call for help. The cabin's a great place to be. The quality of it's probably not quite as good as the Mini, and the feel of the car is perhaps not quite as sharp as a Mini Cooper SE, as they call it. The style's, I think, better than a Mini. And the current Mini Electric is an adaptation of a piston car, whereas this isn't. So theoretically, this should be a better tool for the job. I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm very much enjoying it. Would I rather be sat in a Honda E? The Honda E is just one of those damn cars. There's only one range version to choose from, which is disappointing, but you still want it. You still want it. I keep wanting the Honda E, even though the range is not great, 137 miles at best. I would be really surprised if this car doesn't sell well. The most important thing for Fiat is to get bums in seats of existing 500 drivers who are used to driving a non-electric 500, a piston 500, and they want to taste what it's like going into the world of EV, and that's precisely what I think is vital, to broaden the kind of appeal of EVs. Dun 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 dun. See, that's okay. It's like a laptop. But the turn off just sounds like either a strange circus, fun fair, or a sorry ice cream van. An Italian ice cream van, of course. Okay, Fiat 500e, where am I at with it? Is it a cheeky Cento blinder? I do actually think the FCA group has done a fantastic job of it. I think it translates to an EV really well. You've got the two battery sizes. I think, for me, I would want the bigger battery, the 42 kilowatt hour, which makes it a better range car than the Mini, which makes it a better car range than the Honda E. But then there's the problem, it's in the danger zone of being priced near the base model Honda E, and I think, what a car. What a car. It's so enjoyable. But what this does, I think this will draw a bigger crowd ultimately, and a crowd that maybe wouldn't have looked at an electric car beforehand. I think it's that right level of sort of quality for the money as well. The Mini E is a more luxurious feeling car inside and probably a little bit more enjoyable to drive, but the Honda E has my attention in terms of design overall. It's a really difficult verdict, I'm not going to lie. What I would say though is try this and try the Mini and try the Honda and look at the Zoe as well, because they're all fantastic cars. What this ultimately does is expands the interest in this kind of size of car as a full EV to a wider market, and that's what I want, a wider adoption of electric vehicles. It's not a very good verdict, is it? But that's the one you're going to get. Thanks for watching. If you have already subscribed, thanks for subscribing. If you're a Patreon and you subscribe to me through Patreon and pay £2 or £3 a month, thank you very much for supporting the Late Brake Show. Hope you've enjoyed it. I'm going to get out of these clothes. I feel a bit awkward.